you guys should have listened to the audio clip, which was talking about living in the villages in the foothills up in the Zagros Mountains up here. Here's a picture of those mountains. And you need to decide what you're going to do about being short on food in the village and what choice would be best for you. So here are your choices. And just as a heads up, this is what they're talking about. You're up here. You're living up here. And there's no food. So do you increase the number of times that you farm per year, you plant your crops per year? Do you move down the river and try to grow crops down there? Do you just forget farming, go back to hunting and gathering? Or do you just steal food from neighboring villages by attacking them? So just in case you have not really paid attention thus far, we are talking about Southern Sumer. So naturally, I hope that you picked this one to move down the river plains and grow crops there, because that's what they did. They left the top mountains and they went down the Tigris and Euphrates, and they tried to grow crops there, but there were equal problems down there. But there were food shortages up here, what kind of sparked all of this to happen. So we're into section 4.3, food shortages in the hills. We're going to talk a little bit about what food shortages they had and what troubles they had with those shortages. I'm going to start reading now. Again, you can always pause whenever you'd like. Here we go. So as you learned in the last chapter, in Neolithic times, people in some areas of the world began farming. One of those areas was the rolling foothills of the Zagros Mountains. Again, Zagros Mountains. And that was in northern Mesopotamia. While mild weather and plentiful rains made the foothills a good place to farm. They had good weather, they had plenty of rain, they were good to go. The wooded hills also provided timber for building shelter, so provided wood. There were plenty of stones in the hills for tool making, but over several thousand years, the conditions, they allowed the population to grow dramatically in Mesopotamia. So the foothills, right here, they're actually great. They're great places for people to live. However, here's however. So the population was growing. All right, so highlight that because of them living in the foothills. But as you can see, problems arose. By 5000 BCE, some historians believe, farmers in the Zagros foothills did not have enough land to grow food for the increasing number of people. So there was more people. With more people, you need to provide more food. And they didn't have enough space. They didn't have enough land to grow anything. So we're going to highlight that. This was the problem. They didn't have enough land to grow food for the increasing number of people. And as a result, villages began to suffer from food shortages. They didn't have enough food. Below the foothills, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Below the foothills and to the south, the Euphrates and Tigris rivers ran through flat plains. So the Euphrates and Tigris ran through flat plains. The plains covered a large area of land, and no one lived there. During most of the year, the land was very hard and dry, which if we know anything about farming, hard and dry is tough. Tough to dig into. You need, obviously, water to be able to feed your crops. And the plains lacked trees and stones for making shelters and tools. So everything, of course, was worse down south. But if you don't have food up north, I don't care how many trees and stones you have, you can't survive. Yet the plains held promise too. In the spring, the rivers flooded, bringing precious water. And that's actually very important. To know when the rivers will flood and bring you water, that's awesome, because now you have water to your crops. Perhaps farms could be built there. Driven by the need for food, people moved out of the foothills and onto the plains, and this region became known as Sumer, and its people would be called the Sumerians. So eventually people moved onto the plains. And we have the picture here just showing us the foothills being an ideal place to farm. But like things happen, overpopulation caused the need for a change. So if we look at the notes, now these notes are a little bit different. We have a flow chart. Remember from the first section, the preview section, a flow chart is problem, solution, problem, solution. And you can see you have 2 problems right here and then 3 solutions. So I'm just going to go over it and then you can pause the video and listen to it as you complete each one, because I'm going to read each question and kind of explain what you need to do. Or if you feel good, you can listen to everything and then just get to work. So the first problem was, it says for the question, what were some advantages of living in the foothills of the Zagros Mountains? And we did highlight that at the top, but what you want to focus on is that living in the foothills, there was mild weather, plentiful rain, wood for shelters, and stones for tool making. And I just remembered, I don't think I highlighted that, so I'm gonna go back and highlight that. So I'm sorry, but please follow along. There was mild weather, plentiful rain, wooded, plenty of stones. So you can go ahead and highlight that. I just pretty much gave you the answer of what you need to put here. So that doesn't even seem like a problem, but we know they ran out of food. But they're just asking, what are advantages of living there? Good weather, rain, wood, stones. And then it says, how did farmers living in the foothills solve the food shortage? So how did they solve the fact that there was no food? What did they choose to do? And that goes back to the audio prompt that you listened to that we talked about, but it also says it in the text. Now, for problem 2, it says, draw and label a simple picture showing the problem that occurred around 5000 BCE. So you have to go back and find out the problem that they had and then draw a little picture for it. And make sure you label it so I know what's going on when I look at it. I don't want to see a bunch of scribbles. I know we're not all great drawers. We may not even be good drawers. I'm not a good drawer. I like stick figures. Stick figures are the best. But as long as you're labeling things, I'm going to know what everything in your picture is. And then solution number 2 says, draw and label a simple picture showing Mesopotamian solution to the food shortage. This was the problem. What did they do to solve that problem? And then lastly, who were the Sumerians? And that is towards the bottom of your text. All right. So if you have any questions, raise your hand. You can listen to the video as many times as you want. But to complete the section, you need to complete the notes and have the highlights. All right, guys. Good luck.